John Krasinski, who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for The Athletic. So, John, thank you for coming on right out the gate this morning. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Alan, good to see you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's funny. We got, before the series started, you and I got a chance to connect. And I don't even know where to start with you, because I had no idea this was going to be a 3-1 hole for the Los Angeles Lakers. But let me just kind of start off with this. What you thought coming into the series, and then where the series is right now. Just some things that maybe stick out to you that you expected, and some surprises as well.
Yeah, I think what I thought coming into the series was I truly believe that the Timberwolves were the better, deeper team. I thought that top 1 through 9, I thought that they had a chance to use their depth and their quality of to beat to use 9 to beat 2.5. Essentially, I like Reeves a lot. I just don't he's not a top priority with Luka and LeBron. So
maybe JJ tomorrow will only play 3 guys, not 5.
You never know.
He might just go to 3.
Why not? So I did think the Wolves were the better team. I picked them in 7, but I thought it was going to be really, really close. The one thing that has really surprised me has been I thought that if this game was played in the clutch, that the Wolves were going to be in trouble. Like, I thought that was where the Lakers had a clear advantage. The Wolves were one of the worst clutch teams in the league during the regular season, lost more games than any other team in clutch time situations, and just really had a hard time executing in those situations, both offensively and defensively. And to see the way that it played out here in the 2 games in Minnesota was really, I think, a surprise for them to come out on top in both of those games, make the plays down the stretch that LeBron and Luka could not make, and put themselves in position to close this out. So I'm not shocked that it's 3-1, but I'm shocked that that's how it's gotten to 3-1.
Yeah, I feel like everybody who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves, they pulled a fast one. They told everybody that they're not good in clutch time. Last couple of minutes of a game, if it's close, then Lakers have a clear advantage. I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? It was game 3. They closed out, I think, 13-1.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the closeout in game 4 as well, which was back and forth. I mean, game 4 was just a phenomenal game in general. Yeah, it's I think the depth piece that you mentioned, no real surprise or shock there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when you got a bench that includes Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo, and they certainly got some guys that they can go to that have been very, very productive. But I think the clutch portion that you're talking about, that is, even if you didn't tell me, even if I didn't know what Minnesota was in the clutch, I just know that Lakers have LeBron and Luka, and those are 2 guys that can clearly, obviously, close out games. If you're looking at this from a Laker perspective, and you're seeing that they're down 3-1, how do Lakers get back in this series? If you're kind of maybe taking off that Timberwolves hat for a quick second, what have you seen from the Lakers that you feel like, all right, here's a pathway that they could take?
I mean, the one thing that they can look at, I believe, is that, yes, it is 3-1, but both of the last 2 games could easily have gone the other way. It's not like game 1 where they got blown out and they had no answers and it looked like a real problem. They were right in both of these games in Minnesota, and it could have swung the other way. It could be 2-2, no problem. I think that ultimately with the Lakers, I don't think that they have many adjustments to make. I mean, we saw, like, JJ Redick basically said, this is all I have. I'm going with these 5 guys, and we're going to just try and outlast and hang on for dear life against the Wolves in the second half of game 4. But ultimately what they do have is LeBron and Luka. And I think that you have to have faith and optimism, and it's not blind faith and it's not ridiculous optimism to think that LeBron James and Luka Doncic in a home game after 2 days rest, stave off elimination, are going to play incredibly well and be good enough to win, because they are good enough to win. Now, they played incredibly well in game 4 and lost still, so that's a huge concern. But I really don't know that there are many levers for JJ Redick to pull that are different from the last 2 games. It's just play a tiny bit better and hope that LeBron and Luka don't run out of gas in the fourth quarter, which is what has happened.
What did you make of that second half of not making any substitutions? I mean, we hit on it a lot yesterday. I know it was obviously on every network and platform. When you're asked about that, what was, or even while it was kind of while it was unfolding, what was kind of going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that we came out at halftime of that game, and LeBron and Luka had both played 22 minutes, I think, in the first half. And I actually tweeted before the half started. I said, I bet these guys don't come out at all. Like I was anticipating that. Did I anticipate that all 5 of them would play all 24 minutes? I didn't, but I didn't blame JJ for doing it because that was the game you needed. Had
to have it.
You had to have it. And so the way Jared Vanderbilt is one-dimensional, Gabe Vincent wasn't given him enough, and Jackson Hayes is completely unplayable. So I just didn't see what other options JJ had in that stretch. Could they have gotten Luka or LeBron a minute or two at the start of the fourth quarter when you have a 10-point lead? Maybe. I mean, maybe that would have worked, and maybe that would have been just enough to get them over the edge. But ultimately, I understood why JJ felt as desperate as he was, because you fall down 3-1. That's not a position that you want to be in. And so he just threw everything he had at it, just like they threw everything they had at game 3 and came up just a little bit short.
Is there, I don't get to watch Anthony Edwards on a night in, night out basis. And I know Anthony Edwards is one of the elite players in the NBA, but whatever my interpretation of him was before this series, it's next level for me. This is just me personally watching Anthony Edwards, especially these last couple of games. Is this Ant, or do you also see that he's taken his game to another level? Because it feels like, at least for these last few games, he's been the best player on the floor. I think his decision-making has been phenomenal. And, I think what put the nail in the coffin in game 4 was him driving to the basket, drawing 3 guys and kicking it to Naz Reid for a wide open look. I'm just using one example there, but it's not just, I mean, he also, the dagger type of shots he likes taking, the down 7 or 8, and I could hit a couple threes in a row. It's the maybe even drawing that foul against LeBron late, however you want to call it, hitting those 2 clutch free throws. Is this what Ant is all the time, or do you feel like Ant's also kind of taking his game to a level that you've never seen?
Yeah, he's definitely leveled up, Alan. Yeah, great player. He's been a great player. I think even in playoff situations, what we've seen in his young career, he always seems to raise his level to a higher plane. But this version of Ant is something that is different, especially as you hit on with the decision making in the fourth quarters. One of the reasons that the Timberwolves struggled to close games during the regular season was it often ended with Ant with the ball in his hands and taking a tough contested step back 3, or not finding a Naz Reid that was open in the moment, or the play that I think, Alan, typifies the difference that we've seen from Ant in this series is that play to Reid was great, but it was the other one where he's doubled. Reid gets to the middle. He drops it to Reid. Reid drops it to Jaden McDaniels for the 3-point play. That kind of hockey assist, that kind of pass to the pass that scores is not something that we had seen Ant do a lot of in those moments. He really wants the responsibility, the pressure on himself, and so for him to be able to make those plays, in addition to making the huge threes at the start of the quarter that really got them back in the game, it's an entirely different scenario here. And we're also finding out really what I kind of suspected. The Lakers don't have anyone to defend him. They just don't have a perimeter attack to neutralize him in a way that makes things difficult for him. And then the lack of rim protection, where he struggles the most is when they have a big rim protector and he gets into the paint and gets really contested there, and the Lakers just don't have that for him.
How wildly different is, and you know, I think what you mentioned and how you started the show as well, that you felt like Minnesota, because of their depth, this will be a long series, a long fight, but you felt Minnesota would win the series. I think for probably a lot of Laker fans out there, and even I know this has been well documented, I'm sure, in Minnesota as well, all the people that were picking the Lakers before the series started. I think what happened is you saw the Lakers play about, you can call it from about February 10th on, predominantly with Luka. Obviously, LeBron missed a little bit of time as well, but they locked up the number 3 seed in the Western Conference. They clearly beat some good teams in the process. And I think from that standpoint, you started thinking, all right, I think Lakers can make some noise in the playoffs here. As we kind of sit here today, and, you know, you talk about the lack of size and everything else, how wildly different is this roster to what Luka had a year ago in Dallas? And does this feel like, whether this series ends, if the Lakers are able to come back and win it in 7, okay, that's one thing. Obviously, that would take a lot. But let's just say they're not able to beat Minnesota. How critical is it to trying to match what Luka had in Dallas, but their own version in LA this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's hugely important. I mean, first of all, at the top, for all of the Laker fans who are watching this, I'm not here to dunk on you for thinking that the Lakers would win this series with Luka and LeBron. Like, that it's completely understandable the way that the Lakers played down the stretch. Having those two monsters, having Reeves, like, it's a talented group. But I do think that even when the trade was made, there was this feeling that the team was still incomplete.
Sure.
Right.
And
like,
it wasn't, and the idea wasn't this year. The idea
right.
was just make it happen and then figure it out. But they played so well in the regular season that I think it was easy to kind of start saying, wait a minute here, maybe they can hang with a lot of these teams.
For sure. And when you have Luka and LeBron, you should be that optimistic. That said, it was clear to me at the start of the series, the optimism that I had for the Wolves was partly based on what Luka did to them with Dallas in the Western Conference Finals. Was he not only made big shots, not only did he have Kyrie next to him to score as well, but what gave the Wolves the most problems was that they had a real lob threat with Gafford, Lively, Derek Jones Jr., PJ Washington for Luka to use. But also those guys were so big on the front line that they played great defense as well against the Wolves and made it really hard for them to generate good looks, especially at the rim. And I just looked at this roster and said, who's going to do that in this series? There's just not going to be that type of a player. And I actually thought that Jackson Hayes was going to be a little bit more than he has been so far.
Nothing.
So, yeah, it's been nothing. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do believe that this summer, whenever that begins, whether it's earlier or later in May or whatever it ends for the Lakers, they'll go out and they will add size and they will get some kind of a rolling big to play with Luka, and that will change so many things for the Lakers, and they will be so much more formidable. Right now, it is easier for the Wolves to kind of really concentrate on making things hard for Luka and just making him work and wearing him down over the course of a game. And he doesn't have the easy outlets that he did in Dallas, and that's making an enormous difference in this series so far.
You surprised how maybe little impact Gobert has had on this series, or did you kind of expect, well, Lakers are going to probably go small and his use will be less needed?
Yeah, I guess, I thought, Alan, that if the Wolves were going to win, that Rudy Gobert would be more involved offensively. I really did. He had played great offensively down the stretch. Now, some of those were against bad teams and things like that, but they were monster numbers that he was putting up. And it looked like they had figured out a way to incorporate Rudy Gobert offensively so that they could maximize him defensively as well. And he has been just a complete non-entity from a scoring standpoint. He has 14 points in 4 games. He's been as bad as ever at the rim. layups, turnovers, missing shots, those types of things. Now, I do think he's still making an impact defensively. I thought his 7 offensive rebounds in game 4 were actually really big, but in general, another reason I like the Wolves in this series is I think they have options in multiple ways to win the series. I think the Lakers have one way to win the series. And so we saw that they have tried to get Rudy Gobert more involved. That has not worked, and they've just pivoted away from it. I think Chris Finch, you did a good job of putting Naz Reid out there in the fourth quarter in game 4 and in game 3. And that's the group with Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo, with Edwards and McDaniels, that really causes problems, and Randle, and really causes problems for the Lakers defensively. They just cannot seem to find any answers to keeping the ball out of the net when that group is rolling.
Okay, couple more here, and we appreciate your time as always, John. So just curious here, Julius Randle, I not to say that I didn't think he was going to have a huge impact in the series, but a lot of the narrative around Julius Randle was not a playoff performer. What's he going to do? Obviously, people think of the trade from last year where they traded Karl-Anthony Towns, and I think he's been phenomenal for Minnesota. Are you surprised with what he's been able to do in the postseason? Are Timberwolves fans or even the market just saying that, man, this guy's really over-delivered through the first 4 games or so?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there was concern or certainly question marks about what you were going to see from Randle in the postseason. This is his first year with the Wolves. We have heard all the stories about past playoff failures and the poor shooting and things of that nature, and he's been terrific. To me, like, the biggest contribution from him has been defensively. What he's been able to do to just stand up to LeBron and Luka a little bit has been really impactful for them. And his ability in the first half of game 4, when the offense was not going, for just to make enough buckets to keep them close and in the game, I think has been huge for them. And I think the key to him having success here is that, in New York, he was the number 1A option, and they needed him to score a bunch of points. They needed, he had a lot of offensive responsibility on his shoulders from a scoring standpoint. Here with Edwards, he can be a number 2, and that's much more comfortable. He can facilitate, he can knock down open shots, and it's just a better match for his overall game as the Robin and not the Batman. And he has been a revelation. And yeah, I think that he is winning over Timberwolves fans who certainly were upset when they traded Cat, and to see him play the way that he has with the physicality that he has, I think is winning a lot of people over.
Just curious to get your thoughts. Yesterday, Golden State went up 3-1 in their series. Denver and the Clippers are tied at 2 apiece. What have you made of the other two? OKC, it feels like they finished their series a month and a half ago. So just what do you make of the other two rounds that are going on in the West?
Yeah, I mean, they have been great games. I mean, kind of similar to this series. The Houston Golden State series has been close in these games, but I am a little surprised. I'm actually kicking myself. I thought Houston was going to be able to overcome their offensive issues more with their athleticism against Golden State.
I picked Rockets in 7. I thought they would win that series. That doesn't look like that's happening.
Yeah, no, Jalen Green is a disaster, and and they're just overall they're just not ready for it. It doesn't look like it. They're trying to be the tough guys, and that's not working out for them. Denver and the Clippers. Hey, props to David Adelman and the Nuggets, because that team was dead in the water.
Sure.
2 weeks ago, and to see them fight the way that they have against the Clippers, who are playing really, really well, I think that's inspiring stuff. And seeing Michael Porter Jr. grind through the injuries and figure it out, that's a resourcefulness that I frankly wasn't sure the Nuggets had. As the playoffs approach, they looked fairly well cooked, and they've reached down deep and found something, and so that looks like it's going to be a great series for 3 more games here.
Okay, final one. We'll let you go. So you had predicted before the series started, you thought Minnesota in 7. Just how do you think the rest of this series plays out?
I think the Wolves really, really want to get 5 and just end this. I don't think they want to breathe any sort of belief into Luka and LeBron. That said, I guess I would just be shocked if the Lakers didn't find a way to win at home and continue this thing going forward. I have too much respect for Luka and LeBron for that and for what they've done and how dangerous they are, to think that after 2 days off and playing at home and facing elimination, they're not going to play incredibly well and find a way. That said, I mean, if they do find a way in 5, I do think the Wolves have them in 6. I just think that the longer this goes, the more it favors Minnesota. They have worn the Lakers down in every single game. Even in game 2,
Sure,
they had them on the ropes and just ran out of time. And so I just think that I think they're deeper and they're stronger and they're more athletic, and they're eventually going to get the Lakers. It's just that it's just a matter of when. And I would anticipate we're coming back to Minnesota for game 6, and that might be it.
Well, the rest is over. We know that the long rest that they used to get in between. So I think they'll go Wednesday, Friday, and if necessary, go Sunday. So they'll be piling them up. Brother, I appreciate you doing it. Thank you for kind of working with the time here and making it happen. Really appreciate your insight.
All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.